Am I the a-hole for leaving the restaurant before my boyfriend's family arrived after I was told that I was going to pay for their meals? I, female 29, have been dating my boyfriend, male 35, Ricky, for 5 months. He is divorced but hates this word and goes with the word divorcee instead, since the first one makes it sound like he was dumped when it was him who initiated it. Anyways, he always go on long rants about his exes and say stuff like, "I hope you don't have this awful habit my ex has," or "hope you like XYZ cause my ex didn't," and the list goes on. I found a second job recently and has been having me pay every time we go out. When I protest, he'd say he's going through a rough patch and is seeing how much help I can offer. Last night, he invited his family to join us for dinner. We got to the restaurant first, and he asked me if I brought enough money. I said why, and he told me that he told his parents that I'd pay for their meals. I said, why would I? And went on about his parents going through a rough patch just like him. I said, I'm sorry, this can't be a coincidence. He asked what I meant, and I just told him that I would not be paying. He insisted, but I refused and said no. He then leaned back and said, well, you're here, so not much of a choice you have anyway, while laughing like it was funny. I silently got up, took my phone and purse, and walked right out. He was shocked. He started shouting after me to stop and wait, but I didn't. I went home and he called me enraged, saying that I did a horrible thing walking out on him at his parents, while I could have just paid. I told him that their unfortunate financial situation isn't my problem, and that I wasn't obligated to pay for their food. If they couldn't pay for their meals, then they should not go out. He got offended and said, and I quote, "You're making money priority just like my ex did," then went on about how disrespectful my attitude was, and how I made him look small in front of his parents and forced him to lie about why I wasn't there when they came. We've been going back and forth about it till now. He's mad and is refusing to speak to me till I apologize. Am I the a-hole? I feel bad because his parents are lovely, and I've been doing my best to keep a good relationship with them. Now for the top comments. Oh my god, girl. Run. This is not a man you want or need in your life. Go, 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 and don't look back. Like, ever. Not the a-hole by a long shot. This cannot be repeated too many times. Yep, this man didn't initiate the divorce. He was dumped. He's clearly not over his ex. You deserve better, not being the new love that drives out old love. That's BS, especially when the other person doesn't have anything to offer and is only taking advantage of you emotionally and financially. I think it's a safe bet he doesn't even have a job, which is why she got a second one. And dude's ex was also tired of his BS. Anyone who feels the need to stress that they were totally the one to leave their ex-partner, and not the reverse, is clearly lying about the situation. OP, girl, run far and run fast. He's a leech, and this will not get better. Divorcee versus divorced, red flag. Ranting about his ex on repeat, red flag. Expecting you to pay for everything, red flag. Seeing how much help I can offer, red flag. Expecting you to pay for his parents and not warning you ahead of time, red flag. Comparing you to an ex because you don't want to pay for his family, red flag. This dude is full of red flags. It's time to run. Not stay whole. This feels like one of those, where if Opie just read what she wrote, she wouldn't need this sub. Like, do you not see what you're saying here? Not the whole. Oh, the audacity is strong with this one. And the red flags are waving. Girl, just leave him. If he expected you to pay for him at his parents once, chances are he'll do it again. Like you said, their financial issues aren't your problem. He said it was temporary, but I don't know. His parents are nice people. They treat me better than my own family. They're using you. That's not treating you well. Treat yourself better by moving on from them. Next story. Am I the a-hole for angrily telling my friend that he was not the victim in his relationship? I'm 28 male, have a friend, Bill, 29 male. We are part of a whole group, have been friends for at least 10 years, and some of the demanded women have even ended up marrying each other. Point is, we have all known each other for a very long time. Now, Bill has always displayed narcissistic personality traits, especially in his past relationships. He's a very condescending person and thinks that he's better than everyone else because he has a well-paying job, owns his own house/car, all of that. In comparison, some of the other guys still live with family and such. In his mind, they haven't grown up and he's better than them. It's usually easy to ignore because he's very charismatic and brings in new people to the group. In past relationships, he has been really awful, like giving girlfriends a checklist of stuff they need to change to be with him, commenting on their appearance, etc. But because a lot of this was years ago, I think most of us hoped he'd grow out of it. He always describes all of his exes as crazy, and we usually believed him. Some we could confirm were crazy because we met them, and with the ones we didn't meet, we just believed his stories. Enter his new girlfriend, Sarah, 33, female. They started dating in July 2021. We all got to know her, and she's awesome. She's very down-to-earth and friendly. She has basically become friends with everyone. Well, Bill asked Sarah to move in with him at the end of April 2022, and she did, since she saw the relationship getting more serious. Then, at the end of June 2022, Bill randomly broke up with her. When asked what happened, he says that he just hated that his house no longer felt like his house because of all of her stuff, which everyone thinks is ridiculous. Well, unfortunately, with the housing and rental markets being what it is right now, Sarah had trouble finding a place to move that would meet her needs. She found one place that she took, but the place isn't available until September 30, so she had to stay living with Bill. I know from talking with both of them that Sarah wanted to be as mature and friendly about the whole thing as possible, but Bill has done nothing but be as antagonistic as possible. He's done stupid stuff, like blaring the TV when he knows she's trying to sleep, and he's also done really cruel things, like calling up a booty call, putting her on speakerphone, and talking to her about when they could hook up when he knew Sarah could hear it. Anyway, the guys were all hanging out and Bill kept complaining, trying to sound like the victim in the situation. And I finally said, stop trying to play the victim. No one here thinks you're the victim in this. Actually, if you could have been mature about the breakup, then there wouldn't be any victims. This would have just been a relationship that hadn't worked out. But you made Sarah the victim by all of your actions. So just stop complaining and get over it. Everyone else agreed with me, but Bill got angry and left. Am I the a-hole for how I handled it? Not the a-hole, and from every ex-girlfriend of a narcissistic a-hole? Thank you. Seriously, why are you friends with such a tool though? I know it sounds bad, but a lot of the guys in our group are very introverted and hate talking to new people. He's one of the few who brings in new people. I think that's why we keep him around. He brings in new victims of his abuse. Why do you need a constant influx of friends? Most of us are happy with a handful in adulthood. That's right on the nose. My ex-best friend would cycle through friends like you wouldn't believe. She'd get 2 to 3 new ones at a time, and suddenly they all had this or that issue. When I broke my friendship off with her, it was because I realized these friends were cycling out so fast, because she was emotionally mistreating them and using me as a shield, because I was blinded by my love for her. 14 years, we went through abusive homes together, and she's very much why I lived through some stuff I did. That she could run to me and say, "Oh, they did this to me," and I defend her every single time. I felt awful when I realized it helped her exclude multiple people for no reason at all. She doesn't have any friends now. Not the a-hole, but I'm wondering why you're still friends with Bill. Based solely upon what you've written, he seems to have few redeeming qualities. I completely understand what you're saying. I guess it's because we live in a smaller town. We've all been here our whole lives, for the most part, and it's just always been easier to ignore it. Up until now anyway. Bill might actually have a point about some cases of arrested development in your friend group. You're acting like a bunch of easily led teenagers hanging around one popular kid who tolerates you. Next story. Am I the a-hole for how I reacted when my boyfriend tried to pull me on stage for a hypnotism show? I'd gone to Vegas with a few friends, my boyfriend and my boyfriend's brother. We ended up going to a hypnotism show after having gone out for drinks. The drinks were hitting me pretty hard when I walked in and I was having a great time, until the part where they call people up on stage. And they picked me. I was feeling pretty drunk and not wanting to do it, so I shook my head no. But then my boyfriend grabbed me and tried to pull me up to the stage. I tried to resist being pulled along, but he was really yanking me up there. We'd gotten the attention of the rest of the audience, and they were all cheering for him to pull me up there. And I was kinda angry because first, I was feeling a little too drunk and nauseous. And second, because if my boyfriend had not wanted to do something, I'd respect that. I've often even been the bad guy for saying no to things for him, so he wouldn't have to because of social anxiety. So, I was angry that he didn't respect it the other way around. So when he tried to pull me up the stairs to the stage, I just went completely limp. 170 pounds of dead weight collapsing onto the bottom stair. I also started laughing at the whole situation because, remember, drunk. He tried to lift me up and I went full noodly. And then his brother joined in and they both managed to lift me up, but couldn't keep a hold of me, so I just kept sliding on the ground. The crowd was laughing, but more the guys now. Some people were joking about how the guys couldn't even lift a girl together. Someone in the crowd yelled out to ask if I was okay, and I yelled back, "No, I think I've just suddenly found myself single. Wasn't expecting that tonight." The hypnotist cracked a few jokes about how Vegas is the best place to find yourself suddenly single, then said that he couldn't hypnotize someone who was obviously not open to persuasion of any sort. I felt kinda bad for disrupting the show, though maybe wasn't bothered as it was a comedy show after all. I grabbed my friends and headed out, telling my boyfriend not to follow me. They took me back to their hotel room and told me to sleep it off, figuring I hadn't meant what I'd said about a breakup. But in the morning, my now ex-boyfriend came by wanting to talk, and I stood by what I said, that it was over. I was angry. I'd always been sensitive to his needs, even letting him cast me as the bad guy to get out of plans he didn't want to do. But he saw my consent as a joke? I was over it. He was furious, saying I was being rash, that I had humiliated him by dumping him in front of a crowd, and he didn't even get it. How if I didn't want a scene but made a bigger scene? It didn't feel like I was being rash. I want a partner who doesn't think it's funny to hear my no and ignore it. Not just ignore it, but think it's funny to push me to do the things I said no to anyway. Am I the a-hole for how I reacted when my boyfriend tried to pull me on stage for a hypnotism show? Now for the comments. So not the a-hole. I used to do a bit of stage hypnotism for fun, and first off, any good stage hypnotist tries very hard to screen for drunk people. They are unpredictable and should not be on stage. I am shocked you didn't stop your boyfriend on those grounds alone. Second, most people can't be hypnotized unless they're willing to be, and the others require some special tactics that are unethical to hypnotize in the first place. You'd have been a lousy subject. The people on stage should be having the most fun. Third, and most importantly, you did not want to go up. For that reason alone, anybody who tried to make you is a total a-hole. Honestly, I'm just impressed that you handled it with such humor. I would have been fuming and likely yelling. Also, poor job on the part of a stage hypnotist to allow that situation to happen. I don't know much about stage hypnotism, but if inducing an altered state of consciousness is really what happens, then it's absolutely a horrible idea to invite drunk people to take part in the show. It's also bad to do it with people on meds, or people living with mental illnesses who are already having a hard time telling reality and imagination apart like schizophrenics. When it comes to hypnotism, meditation, etc., this is rule number 1. It's right up there with consent. I don't know what folks in Vegas are doing. This all sounds way too crazy. You were right. The stage hypnotist should have done a better job and not allowed all this to happen, only because the audience was having fun at OP's expense. When I was big into meditation, I went to one. It was very small. When I was on stage, I just kind of slipped into my regular meditation mindset. I don't remember much except trying to tell the guy I wanted out and the assistant whispering, "Shake it off," behind me. Oh, and also him lifting my head and saying, "She's really out." I did not like it. It in fact ruined meditation for me for a long time, and even now I can't click into it like I used to be able to do. Not the a-hole at all. Ew. Him and his brother are creeps. I'm glad they got humiliated. Yeah, how do they think they're not a-holes? Hint, if you find yourself physically dragging an unwilling person around, you should probably reassess what you're doing. Obviously, exception if they're a danger to themselves in that moment. Now, for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my family my wife puts our son to bed early so she doesn't have to deal with his behavior? My son is 4 and has been placed in a special needs school. He is being tested for autism in January, and we have had this appointment for well over a year. My wife had him evaluated by the school, and he had a 75% delay, so they went ahead and let him enroll in the school without a formal diagnosis. It can be quite challenging at times. I work 12-hour days, and my wife is a stay-at-home mom. She takes him to the school an hour away, then picks him up in the afternoon. We have a 2-year-old and a newborn as well. I leave at 4 a.m. and she leaves around 7 a.m. I get home around 6 p.m. every day. Since my son has been in school, she puts him to bed at 7 p.m., which is super early. My family came over for dinner at 6 p.m. and by 6:30 she was taking him upstairs for bath and left the babies downstairs to be held by my mother and father. By 7 p.m. she was putting him in bed. I asked her if he could stay up until 9 p.m. so he could interact with my family as they don't come very often. She immediately said no, and that he gets bad notes from school when he stays up too late, and that he is very difficult in the morning when he is overtired. So I told my family that he couldn't stay up and had to go to bed because she couldn't deal with his behavior. After they left, she told me I was a huge a-hole and that she puts him to bed for his own good and not doing it for herself. She then called me selfish. My mother-in-law has also texted me telling me that I need to help her daughter more and that I should not embarrass her in front of my family that way. I called my mother and she agreed that 7 p.m. was extremely early and an extra 2 hours would not have hurt him at all. Am I the a-hole? Wow, so you think that your wife is lying about the school employees sending notes about your son acting up more when he's tired? Your wife can't handle your son's behavior. It's appropriate to trash talk your wife's parenting to your own parents. That your mom is more knowledgeable than both school personnel. Whoops, forgot, that was a lie. And your own wife, the mother of the child in question who knows him best and has raised him for 4 years. And that you should include your mom in an argument between you and your wife after you humiliated your wife by bad-mouthing her. I'm sure you're providing the family with a great income, but other than that, you seem to be a source of ugliness, negativity, and pain for them. I hope this isn't your normal behavior because you're the a-hole 100%. It also is lack of support for his wife. Since she appears to be doing all of the raising, he doesn't appear to know the first thing about his child. As evidenced by not knowing the kid needs more sleep to make it through the day, he wants to keep her knocked up while he does very little. He doesn't appear to know the first thing about his child, or any child for that matter. 7 p.m. is a perfectly reasonable bedtime for a 4-year-old. They need about 11 hours of sleep at that age. It's a very developmentally normal thing for him to be going to bed at a time.